I didn't believe in campus legends. So when the coldest, hottest senior at school started looking at me like I was something worth keeping, I had absolutely no plan for it. I was a freshman. New dorm, new campus, new life. My biggest concern that weekend was surviving orientation games without humiliating myself in front of strangers. Then Vincent Hale showed up. A photographer, a senior, a campus roomer in a black jacket. Exactly my type, which was rude. And somehow, before I could decide whether he was dangerous or just unfairly attractive, he was standing in front of me asking for a chance. Not a joke. Not a dare. A chance. Completely insane. Unfortunately, it happened to me. I only knew 3 things about him. 1. Every freshman in my dorm had an opinion. 2. Most of those opinions were aggressively dramatic. 3. I was pretending not to care, which meant I absolutely cared. Vincent is coming to orientation weekend. Marco announced from the top bunk like he had just revealed classified government intel. I looked up from unpacking my socks. Am I supposed to know who that is? 3 heads turned toward me. That was how I learned Vincent was apparently not just a person, but a campus event. Senior, photography club, ridiculously hot, cold enough to reject people without raising his voice. The kind of guy who made group chats go feral because he posted one blurry mirror selfie with a camera strap around his neck. He once turned down the student body vice president at a party, Jess added, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Didn't even look mean about it. Just said, "No thanks," and walked away. "That's not cold," I said. "That's efficient." Marco pointed at me. "You'd fold in 2 seconds. I have standards. You have a Pinterest board called Men Who Look Emotionally Unavailable. I shut my drawer harder than necessary. That is private." Laughter exploded around the room. For the record, I was not some helpless freshman who lost all motor function around attractive men. I was outgoing, social, well-adjusted, depending on who you asked and how much caffeine I'd had. I knew how to flirt, how to recover from rejection, and how to spot a bad idea wearing a good jawline. Vincent sounded exactly like that. A bad idea with cheekbones. So obviously I wanted to see him, not talk to him, not impress him, just confirm whether the campus-wide hysteria was justified. That was my official position. The unofficial position was that I had been gay long enough to recognize when curiosity was just attraction wearing a fake mustache. Orientation weekend started the next morning. 2 days, 1 night, somewhere in the woods outside the city. Team games, bonfires, icebreakers, trust exercises. Basically, a legal way to force freshmen into bonding while sweating through free university t-shirts. When I got to the main quad with my duffel bag slung over one shoulder, the place was chaos. Freshmen shouting names, student leaders checking lists, someone already losing a water bottle they had been holding 30 seconds earlier. Then the photography club arrived. I knew before anyone said his name. Vincent walked behind the others, wearing a black jacket despite the warm morning, a camera hanging against his chest. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't trying to be noticed. Annoyingly, that made him more noticeable. He had dark hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of face that made you understand why people invented bad poetry. Which was unfortunate, because I respected myself too much to become a cliché before breakfast. "There," Marco hissed beside me. "That's him. I have eyes." And I watched Vincent adjust the strap of his camera, gaze passing over the crowd. Then it stopped. On me. Not a glance. Not an accident. A pause. My stomach did something deeply embarrassing. I lifted my chin like I hadn't noticed, turned back to Marco, and forced a shrug. "He's okay." Marco stared at me. "You're a terrible liar." "Maybe." But across the quad, Vincent raised his camera, and the lens pointed straight at me. I did what any mature, emotionally stable freshman would do when a gorgeous senior aimed a camera at him. I looked away and pretended the nearest orientation banner was suddenly fascinating. Very normal, very smooth, possibly award-winning. "Lewis?" Marco muttered beside me. "Your ears are red." They're sunburned. It's 8:30 in the morning. The sun is ambitious. He snorted, but before he could ruin my dignity further, one of the student coordinators started yelling for everyone to load their bags onto the buses. The crowd shifted, and when I glanced back, Vincent had lowered his camera. He wasn't smiling, but he was still looking at me, only for a second. Then one of the photography club guys bumped his shoulder, said something I couldn't hear, and Vincent turned away like nothing had happened. Like my stomach hadn't just filed a formal complaint. I climbed onto the bus with Marco and Jess, taking a window seat because I liked watching places blur when I was nervous. Not that I was nervous, obviously. I was simply experiencing a heightened awareness of my surroundings and one specific senior's bone structure. Healthy. As the bus pulled out of campus, I caught my reflection in the glass and remembered the first time I'd been here. 2 months earlier. Visitor badge crooked on my shirt. Campus map upside down in my hands. Confidence completely undeserved. I had come to admitted students day by myself because my mom had work, and my dad had texted, "Take pictures." Then immediately followed it with, "Not too many boys." A supportive man, tragically aware. I had gotten lost before the tour even started. Not mildly lost. Not oops, wrong building lost. I had somehow wandered from the admissions office to the art building, then confidently told 3 other lost kids that the library was probably that way, while pointing directly at a parking garage. They believed me. That was the worst part. When we realized my map was upside down, I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my iced coffee. The other kids laughed too. For a few seconds, standing there under the late spring sun, none of us felt like strangers trying too hard to look ready for college. That was the moment I felt it. A click. Not loud. Not obvious. Just the tiny mechanical sound of a camera shutter. I had turned my head. Across the quad, beneath the shade of a big oak tree, someone stood with a camera raised. Tall, dark jacket, still as a shadow. I remembered thinking he must have been taking photos for the school website. Maybe the trees, maybe the crowd. Definitely not me. Because why would anyone take a picture of a random guy holding an upside-down map and laughing like an idiot? Earth to Lewis. Jess waved a hand in front of my face. I blinked back into the bus. What? You were smiling at the window like a Disney character with student debt. First of all, rude. Second, accurate. Marco leaned over the seat in front of us, eyes narrowed. Thinking about Vincent? No. Jess grinned. That was too fast. I'm thinking about the weekend. And Vincent will be there. Many people will be there. But only one of them looks like he'd tell you to be quiet and somehow make it romantic. Pointed at her. You're banned from speaking. The bus hit a bump. Laughter rippled through the aisle, and I sank lower in my seat with what remained of my pride. Outside, campus disappeared behind us. Inside, I tried not to look toward the front where the student leaders sat. I failed once. Vincent was in the first row, camera resting in his lap, head turned slightly toward the window. Then his hand moved. He opened his jacket just enough to slip something into the inside pocket. A small photo. I didn't see the whole thing. Just one corner. Sunlight, grass, a flash of my own yellow hoodie. And suddenly the bus felt much smaller. By the time we reached the orientation camp, I had convinced myself I did not see a photo. A corner of yellow fabric could have been anything. A flyer, a receipt, a tiny warning from the universe that I was about to make several poor emotional choices. Still, when Vincent stepped off the bus ahead of us, my eyes went straight to the inside pocket of his jacket. Normal behavior, completely casual, possibly something I would deny in court. Lewis, Jess whispered, dragging her duffel bag beside mine. You're staring. I'm observing. You're hunting for clues like a freshman hunter. Then respect my process. The camp sat at the edge of a state forest, with wooden cabins, a main lodge, and too many motivational banners about leadership. Student coordinators herded us toward the check-in tables. Someone handed me a name tag. Someone else handed me a schedule dense enough to qualify as a legal document. Then the clubs began setting up. Outdoor club had ropes and helmets. Drama club was already being loud on purpose. Student government had clipboards which felt threatening. The photography club took over a shaded table near the lodge. Vincent stood behind it. Of course he did. Black jacket, camera strap, expression unreadable. He looked less like a student volunteer and more like someone hired to make the brochure dangerous. A girl in front of me almost walked straight into a trash can while staring at him. Honestly, I respected the commitment. Marco elbowed me. Go say hi. To a senior I don't know? You know his name. That is not a relationship. It's a start. It's a lawsuit if you say it like that. Before Marco could push me into traffic, one of the photography club members waved freshmen over for a quick activity. We were supposed to take instant photos of something that represented our first impression of college. A little cheesy, but harmless. Probably. I picked up one of the instant cameras and pointed it at Marco, who immediately posed like a divorced billionaire on a yacht. No, I lowered the camera. My first impression of college is not tax fraud. Jess held up her name tag. Take mine. It already has coffee on it. Very authentic. I laughed, stepped back to frame the shot, and bumped into someone solid. Not a dramatic fall. Not a rom-com collision. Just my shoulder hitting a chest, my balance tilting, and one hand catching my elbow before I could embarrass myself in front of half the freshman class. A warm hand. Steady. I looked up. Vincent. Naturally. Because the universe had no chill. His fingers released my elbow once I was stable. Careful. One word. That was it. My brain, apparently starving, treated it like a full love letter. Thanks. I lifted the camera slightly. I was trying to capture the emotional devastation of a stained name tag. His eyes flicked to Jess, then back to me. Ambitious. I aim high. I noticed. That should not have sounded like anything. It did. For one ridiculous second, neither of us moved. The noise of camp softened around the edges. His gaze stayed on mine, calm and sharp, like he was framing something only he could see. Then Vincent, may I? My mouth worked faster than my common sense. You asking for consent to photograph me? Or is this a senior intimidate? The corner of his mouth moved. Almost a smile. Both can be true. I should have said no just to prove I had self-control. Instead, I tilted my chin. Make me look expensive. This time, Vincent did smile. Barely. Click. And somehow, that tiny sound felt less like a photo being taken, and more like evidence being collected. The treasure hunt started with a whistle, a laminated map, and a student coordinator yelling, "Remember, teamwork is the real prize." Marco leaned toward me. The real prize is surviving forced socialization. Wrong. I whispered back. The real prize is snacks. Jess shook her envelope of clues. Focus. We're Team 7. Of course we were Team 7. Because when the coordinator began assigning upperclassmen to each group, Vincent walked over with his camera against his chest and that calm, unreadable face. Jess made a tiny noise. Marco muttered, "Oh, this is hilarious." I stared straight ahead like a man with no inner life. Vincent stopped beside us. Team 7. Jess lifted the envelope a little too fast. That's us. His gaze moved from her to Marco, then landed on me. Not long. Long enough. I smiled because I had dignity and also because panicking was bad for my skin. So, are you the kind of senior who saves us from getting lost? Or the kind who looks handsome while we all learn survival through failure? Marco coughed into his fist. Vincent glanced at the map in my hand. Depends if you know how to read that. I looked down. The map was upside down. Deeply rude of it. I turned it around slowly. I was testing team awareness. Did we pass? His eyes stayed serious, but there was something at the corner of his mouth. No. Jess grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the trail before I could develop a medical condition called flirting too hard. The first clue sent us to a wooden bridge. The second led to a painted birdhouse near a fork in the trail. It should have been simple, except every team was running around like we were hunting state secrets instead of plastic tokens. I was good at clues. Better than expected, maybe. I spotted the tiny blue ribbon tied behind a trail marker before anyone else did. Then figured out that where water sleeps under stone meant the dry creek bed near the old culvert. Vincent noticed. He didn't praise me loudly. He didn't make a big thing of it. He just watched, camera occasionally rising, shutter clicking whenever I pointed something out or laughed at Marco slipping in mud. After the third photo, I turned. "Are you documenting team spirit or building a case file?" Vincent lowered the camera. "Both can be useful. You say that like someone with a locked drawer. I have several. That is not less suspicious." This time, the smile almost happened again. Almost. I was starting to hate how much I wanted to earn it. At the fourth checkpoint, Jess and Marco argued over whether a carved arrow meant east or emotionally forward. I crouched near a cluster of wet leaves, brushed one aside, and found a small metal tag tied to a root. "Found it," Jess gasped. "Okay. Freshman Sherlock." Marco pointed at me. "Freshman Hunter confirmed." I stood, smug and damp-kneed. Respect the process. Vincent stepped closer, close enough that his sleeve nearly brushed mine as he looked at the tag in my palm. "Good eye." 2 words. Absurd damage. I looked up at him. "Careful. Keep complimenting me and I'll become difficult." His gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second. "You aren't already?" I forgot the English language. Thankfully, thunder cracked somewhere beyond the trees, saving me from whatever humiliating sound I was about to make. The sky, which had been gray all afternoon, darkened fast. Jess looked up. Was rain on the schedule? Marco unfolded the paper. Icebreakers, team lunch, campfire, emotional growth. No storm. A coordinator's whistle blew in the distance, sharp and urgent. Vincent's expression changed. Not scared. Focused. He reached for the radio clipped to his belt, but before he could press the button, the first heavy drops hit the leaves above us. Then the trail behind us disappeared into rain. The rain didn't fall. It arrived. 1 second, the forest was damp and gray. The next, water crashed through the leaves like someone had dumped the entire sky over us. Jess yelped, clutching the clue envelope to her chest. "Okay. This feels unsafe in a character-building way." Vincent pressed the radio button. Static answered. His jaw tightened. Marco wiped rain from his eyes. "That sounded bad. That sounded like expensive tuition not covering basic walkie-talkies." I muttered, then raised my voice over the storm. "We should head back to the last checkpoint." Vincent nodded once. "Stay close." It was annoying how calm he sounded. Not arrogant calm. Not I know everything calm. Useful calm. We turned back toward the trail marker, but the rain had already changed the forest. Dirt turned slick. Leaves plastered themselves across the path. The little blue ribbons that had seemed so obvious 10 minutes ago now looked like wet scraps of nothing. Then Jess stopped. "My bracelet." I blinked through the rain. "What?" "The team token," Jess blurted, clutching the clue envelope. "It slipped out near the tag. Without it, we don't finish." Marco immediately turned. "We'll find it." Vincent looked toward the trees, then at the sky. Quickly, we doubled back only a few yards. That was the plan. A few yards became 20. 20 became the wrong slope. The wrong slope became me grabbing a branch as my sneaker slid out from under me. Vincent's hand caught my wrist before I hit the ground. Again. I looked up at him, rain running down my face. "You're making a habit of this." His grip stayed firm until I had my balance. "You're making it necessary." "I'm choosing to take that as concern." "You should." That shut me up for approximately 4 seconds. A whistle blew somewhere behind us, farther than it should have been. Marco shouted Jess's name from the left, but the wind ate half of it. We pushed through a cluster of trees and found them near a fallen log. Jess had the plastic team token clenched in her fist, pale but relieved. Got it. Great, I breathed. Let's never love jewelry again. Vincent lifted the radio. More static, then one broken voice. All groups return. Main trail, repeat. The signal cut out. At least that meant someone new teams were still out here. Vincent tried the radio again, angling it toward the open trail. Static hissed, then a coordinator's voice cracked through for half a second. Team 7, respond if. Then nothing. Vincent's expression tightened, but not with panic. More like calculation. They know we're missing, he said. That's comforting in a bureaucratic way, I muttered. It means they'll start from the last checkpoint, which was good, probably, assuming we could stay near anything that looked like a place humans were supposed to be. A sharp crack split the air. Not thunder, a branch. Vincent's head snapped toward the sound. Move. We moved. Fast. A dead limb came down somewhere behind us with a heavy, wet crash that shook through my shoes. Jess cursed. Marco grabbed her hand. We ran until the trail opened into a narrow split I didn't remember. Left. Downhill, muddy, disappearing into brush. Right. Flatter, but blocked by a half-fallen tree. Vincent stared at the map, then at the trees, reading things I couldn't see. Marco's phone buzzed weakly. I have 1 bar. Call the coordinator, Vincent ordered. Marco tried. Failed. Tried again. Nothing. Jess rubbed her arms, teeth starting to chatter. Are we lost? I wanted to say no. I was very committed to being the funny one, not the dramatic one. But even I could feel the truth pressing in with the rain. Vincent's eyes moved over each of us. We're off the marked trail. Marco swore under his breath. Not by far, Vincent added, voice steady. But walking blind in this weather is worse. I crossed my arms, mostly to stop shivering. So what's the plan? Cold Senior Survival Edition? His eyes flicked to me. A tiny, impossible calm passed between us. Shelter first. Signal when the storm drops. Good plan, I nodded. Very brochure-friendly. Can you walk? Can you stop asking responsible questions while looking like that? Jess made a strangled noise behind me. Marco whispered, There he goes. Vincent only watched me for a beat longer, rain sliding off his lashes. Then his gaze shifted past my shoulder. There. I turned. Through the trees, half hidden on a low rise, stood an old wooden structure. Small, crooked, probably full of spiders and bad decisions. A ranger lookout shack. Vincent started toward it, and for some reason, when he reached back, his hand found mine. The shack looked like it had been built by someone who believed nails were optional and optimism was structural support. Vincent pushed the door open with his shoulder. I groaned. I groaned back on principle. Inside, it smelled like wet wood, dust, and old leaves. There was one narrow bench, 2 cracked windows, a shelf with nothing useful on it, and exactly the kind of shadowy corner where a spider with a criminal record would live. Marco stared in. Cozy. Jess hugged herself. I hate nature. Nature has also filed a complaint, I told her. Vincent stepped inside first, scanning the floor and ceiling. It's dry enough. Dry enough is going on my tombstone. He glanced back at me. You're not dying. Not with that attitude. The radio gave one weak burst of static, then nothing. Marco tried his phone again near the window. Jess had half a bar if she held her arm up like she was offering herself to a weather god. After a few minutes of failed calls and increasingly creative swearing, Vincent made the decision none of us wanted but all of us understood. The radio crackled again near the window. Marco froze with his phone held above his head. Wait, I got a text through. Jess leaned in. From who? Coordinator. Marco squinted at the screen. There at the lower trail marker. Like close. They're telling us to stay visible. A whistle answered from somewhere below the ridge. Not far. Then another. Vincent moved to the door and looked through the rain. They're closer to you too than they are to us. What about Lewis? Jess's eyes dropped to my knee. I immediately sat up straighter. My knee and I are both offended. Vincent didn't look amused. You're slower right now. The shack is safer than dragging you down a muddy slope in the dark. Outside, a flashlight cut briefly through the trees below. A voice shouted Marco's name. Relief hit Jess's face. Vincent handed Marco the whistle from his pocket. Go straight toward the light. Stay together. No shortcuts. Tell them exactly where we are. Marco looked at me. You good? I'm trapped in a shack with a suspiciously attractive senior. Obviously, I'm in grave danger. Jess hugged me fast. Don't flirt yourself into hypothermia. No promises. Marco pointed 2 fingers at his eyes, then at Vincent. Senior boy, keep him alive. Vincent's face stayed calm. That's the plan. I looked up. Why am I staying? His eyes moved to my soaked sneakers, then my muddy knee. You slipped twice. I slipped with style. You also hit your knee. Barely. Vincent didn't argue. He just looked at me. Terrible strategy. Very effective. When the door shut behind them, the shack suddenly felt smaller. Much smaller. Rain hammered the roof. Wind pushed through the cracks with cold, wet fingers. I sat on the bench and stretched my leg, pretending my knee didn't ache. Vincent crouched in front of me. Let me see. I'm fine. Lewis. One word again. Rude how well it worked. I rolled my eyes and let him check. His hands were cool, careful, not dramatic. No unnecessary touching. No big hero moment. Just his fingers brushing mud from my knee, testing for swelling, then releasing me before my brain could turn the whole thing into a scene. Bruised. Not bad. Great. I'll live to annoy you another day. You're assuming I'm annoyed. Are you not? Vincent stood, water dripping from his hair. His jacket was soaked through, but the camera bag against his chest was wrapped in a plastic cover like priceless evidence. Pointed at it. You protect that thing like it's your firstborn. He looked down, then back at me. It keeps things I don't say. That landed harder than it should have. I shifted on the bench. That was almost a personality reveal. Don't tell anyone. Too late. I'm making a scrapbook. A faint smile touched his mouth. Then I shivered. I hated that he noticed immediately. Vincent unzipped his jacket, wrung water from the edge, and checked the windows. Temperatures dropping. Cool. Love that for us. You're shaking. I'm expressing myself physically. Your shirt is soaked. I looked down. He was right. My university t-shirt clung to me like it had signed a lease. Vincent hesitated for the first time all day. Then he held up the driest part of his jacket. We need to share heat. My brain opened 17 tabs at once. All right? I managed, voice almost normal. Very medical. Very wilderness safety. His gaze stayed on mine. Only if you're okay with it. That quieted me. Not because I didn't have a joke ready. Because he meant it. I nodded. Yeah, I'm okay. He sat beside me on the bench, close but not crowding. The jacket came around both our shoulders, barely wide enough. My arm pressed to his. My thigh touched his. Heat moved slowly between us, careful and dangerous. Better. His voice was low, almost covered by the rain. Physically, yes. And otherwise? I stared at the opposite wall. Otherwise, I'm having a very complicated freshman orientation weekend. Vincent's breath almost sounded like a laugh. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, something slipped from his jacket pocket and landed between us. A small photograph, face down. For one full second, neither of us moved. The photograph lay between our thighs like it had fallen there on purpose. Face down. Small. Harmless, technically. Except Vincent went very still. And Vincent did not go still the way normal people did. He became quieter than quiet, like someone had pressed pause on a storm. I looked at the photo, then at him, then back at the photo. Is this the part where I discover you're secretly a spy? His eyes stayed on the paper. No. A criminal? No. A man with an alarmingly sentimental pocket? That got me a glance. Not denial. Interesting. Before he could reach for it, I picked it up. I did it fast. Maybe too fast. But in my defense, curiosity is a medical condition when you are 18, cold, gay, and trapped in a ranger shack with a senior who keeps saying things like, "It keeps things I don't say." The photo was slightly bent at one corner. I turned it over and forgot how to breathe like a person. It was me, not from today, not from the club table, not from the treasure hunt, not from the moment I told him to make me look expensive. This was older. Spring sunlight, green quad, my yellow hoodie, a campus map upside down in my hands. My head tipped back mid-laugh, mouth open, eyes almost closed, completely unaware that someone had decided to keep that version of me. I stared at it so long the rain became background noise. "Oh," I managed. Vincent didn't take it from me. He didn't explain right away either. His shoulder was still pressed to mine beneath the jacket, warm and tense. I lifted the photo. "You took this?" "Yes." "On Admitted Students' Day?" "Yes." Vincent's jaw shifted once. "It was part of the campus shoot," he added. "The club was taking photos for orientation material." I held up the picture. "And this one somehow moved into your jacket?" "It wasn't used. So you kept it." A pause. "I should have deleted it." That was probably the right answer. Annoyingly, it also sounded like the honest one. I slowly turned my head. "And you've just been carrying it around?" His face gave away nothing. His ears, however, were not as disciplined. A faint pink touched the tips. That was possibly the most powerful thing I had ever witnessed. "Not always." "Vincent." He looked at me then. Really looked. "I had it in my camera bag first." "Oh, that makes this completely normal." The corner of his mouth twitched. I should have been weirded out. Maybe a little. I mean, if some random guy had a printed photo of me in his jacket, I would usually recommend therapy, distance, and possibly campus security. But this didn't feel like that. There was nothing hungry or entitled in the way he watched me. No expectation. No smug reveal. Just a quiet kind of embarrassment. Like the photo had confessed before he was ready to. I looked back down. In the picture, I looked happy. Not polished. Not attractive in a carefully arranged way. My hair was messy. My map was wrong. My coffee was tipping dangerously close to disaster. But I looked alive. Seen. That was the annoying part. He hadn't made me look cooler. He had made me look like myself. "Why this one?" My voice came out softer than I meant. Vincent's gaze dropped to the photo. "I took a lot of pictures that day." "That is not an answer." "I know." Rain tapped hard against the roof. Somewhere outside, branches creaked in the wind. Finally, he exhaled. "You were lost." I blinked. "Romantic. And you were helping other people anyway." My throat went quiet. Vincent's fingers shifted against his knee, not reaching for me, not reaching for the photo. "You had no idea where you were going. But you laughed like it didn't scare you." I swallowed. "That's because I'm very brave." "You were holding the map upside down." Bravery and accuracy are different skill sets. This time he smiled. Actually smiled. Small, brief, devastating. I nearly dropped the photo. Vincent looked away first, toward the cracked window. "You looked like someone who didn't mind being seen." I had no joke ready for that. Tragic. Deeply inconvenient. So I stared at the photo until my face stopped feeling like it belonged to me. Then I handed it back. Vincent took it carefully, like he expected me to be mad. I wasn't. I was worse. Curious. "You know," I murmured. "This does not make you less suspicious." His thumb brushed the bent corner of the photo. "No, but it does make you more interesting." His eyes lifted. Outside, through the rain, a distant whistle cut across the forest. and Vincent slid the photo back into his jacket like a secret we had both agreed not to return yet. The whistle came again. Faint but real. I straightened so fast my shoulder knocked Vincent's under the jacket. Was that? Another whistle cut through the rain. Vincent was already on his feet, moving to the cracked window. He pushed it open an inch and shouted into the storm. Here! A flashlight beam swept across the trees, missed the shack, then swung back. Marco had done his job. Through the rain, I could hear him shouting somewhere below, loud enough to wake every raccoon in the county. Jess was with him, waving a flashlight like an airport marshal with personal trauma. So that was how they found us. Not magic, not fate, just two friends, one working phone signal, and Vincent being annoyingly right about staying put. Voices followed. Relief hit me first. Then, annoyingly, disappointment elbowed its way in. Because apparently my survival instincts and my romantic instincts were not in the same group chat. Vincent grabbed the radio and tried again. This time, through the static, a voice broke through. Visual on your location. Stay put. I exhaled. Great. Love being found. Huge fan. Vincent glanced over his shoulder. You sound disappointed. I'm wet, cold, and possibly emotionally compromised. Don't analyze my tone. He stepped back from the window, and the jacket slipped slightly from his shoulders. Under it, the photo was tucked safely inside again. I nodded toward his pocket. So, is this how you usually recruit people into the photography club? His brow lifted. You know, I continued, because my mouth had survived danger and chosen violence. Take their picture months before they know you, get assigned to their treasure hunt team, lure them into a haunted ranger shack. I didn't lure you. You held my hand. You were walking toward the shack. Details ruin a good accusation. That tiny smile returned. The dangerous one. Barely there, but enough to make my pulse embarrass itself. Vincent leaned one shoulder against the wall. I was going to ask something. Please don't make it mysterious. I've had enough forest today. His eyes stayed on mine. Calm. Dark. Too steady. Want to try? My brain stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. Because in a normal classroom under fluorescent lights, that sentence might have had several innocent interpretations. But we were in a rain-battered shack, sharing body heat. After I had discovered he carried my photo like a secret. His hair was damp. His voice was low. My shoulder still remembered the shape of his. So naturally, I became a national embarrassment. Try? I cleared my throat. Try what? Vincent watched me for 2 illegal seconds. Then his mouth curved. The photography club. I blinked. Once. Twice. The universe had clearly done enough damage for one afternoon and decided to stand back and admire its work. Oh, were you thinking of something else? No. Louis. I said no. I like the thought in your head better. My face went hot so fast it probably helped with the hypothermia. You don't know what I was thinking. I can guess. You're a photographer, not a psychic. No, his gaze dipped, then returned to mine. But your face is easier to read than backlit film. I opened my mouth. Nothing intelligent arrived. Extremely disappointing performance from my own brain. Outside, boots splashed through mud. Flashlights bobbed closer. Someone shouted my name, then Vincent's. Saved. Tragically, I stood, pulling the jacket tighter around me. For the record, I might try the club. Vincent pushed the door open. Cold air rushed in, carrying rain and voices. Just the club. I stepped past him onto the slick wooden step, then looked back. The flashlights hit his face at an angle, catching the almost smile he didn't bother hiding. I lifted my chin. Shame the rescue team got here so early. His eyes sharpened. I smiled like I had any control left. I didn't even get to try. For half a second, Vincent said nothing. Then he laughed quietly, and somehow that sound followed me all the way down the trail. By the time we got back to camp, everyone acted like we had been missing for 7 years instead of a few hours. Jess threw herself at me first. "You idiot." I hugged her with one arm. "That's Mr. Idiot who survived the woods to you." Marco appeared behind her, soaked and guilty. "My bad for the bracelet. You're bad for trusting jewelry in a storm." He looked past me at Vincent. "Senior boy kept you alive?" Vincent stood beside me, calm as ever, rain dripping from his hair. "Barely." I turned. "Wow, betrayal." His mouth moved like he was considering a smile, then decided to make me work for it. After the medic checked my knee and declared me annoyingly fine, the coordinators started reorganizing rooms. The storm had leaked through 2 cabins, flooded 1 hallway, and apparently ruined the grand plan of not putting freshmen and seniors into suspicious sleeping arrangements. 2 rooms were packed with extra students. 1 cabin had no heat. Another had a ceiling leak directly over the beds. By the time the coordinator got to us, clipboard clutched to her chest. She looked like she had personally fought the weather and lost. "Okay," she said, voice thin with exhaustion. "Last room." I took the key from her, then saw the room number, then walked in, then stopped. 1 bed. Not 2. 1 narrow twin bed that looked deeply unserious about supporting 2 adult men. I stared at it. Vincent stepped in behind me. Silence. The room was tiny. A desk. 1 chair. 1 lamp. A radiator making a sound like it was reconsidering life. And the bed sitting there like evidence. Pointed at it. "That is not a bed. That is a horizontal threat." Vincent set his bag down. "We can ask for another room." The woman with the clipboard looked like she was 1 complaint away from joining the forest. "Floor. You are not sleeping on the floor after getting me out of the rain. You were the one who almost slipped off a cliff. It was a hill with ambition." He looked at me. I looked at the bed. My face warmed. "Anyway, I'm showering first." Cowardly? Yes. Strategic? Also yes. The hot water helped. For 7 minutes, I was a normal person with soap and dignity. Then I stepped out in sweats and a borrowed university t-shirt, towel over my wet hair, and found Vincent standing by the window. Shirtless. Completely. Illegally. I stopped so hard my socks nearly gave up. It was unfair for a photographer to have abs like that. He already had the camera, the jawline, the quiet stare that made people invent inner monologues for themselves. The universe did not need to give him abs. That was cheating. Vincent turned. "Done?" I stared. Professionally. With academic focus. "You're encouraging crime." Vincent looked down at himself, then back at me. "By standing here? By standing there like that?" His eyes flicked over my face. Amused. "I'm helping the medical staff avoid dealing with me catching a cold." "By being shirtless?" "My shirt was wet. Put on a dry one." "I will. Now." He passed me on the way to the bathroom, close enough for his shoulder to almost brush mine. Almost. Disrespectfully, almost. When he shut the door, I sat on the edge of the bed and attacked my hair with the towel. I was not thinking about his abs. I was thinking about higher education. Vincent came out 10 minutes later. Still shirtless. I looked again. This time I didn't even pretend to blink. "Sorry." He picked up his towel. "Forgot to bring a shirt in." I glanced at the clean shirt lying on the chair. "You're a terrible liar." Vincent's smile finally appeared. "You said you were disappointed the rescue team came early." My heart tripped. That was hypothermia talking. Is it still talking? "No." He stepped closer, voice low. "Good." Rain tapped against the window again. The room got colder by the minute, and even under the blanket, I started shivering. Vincent noticed. Of course he did. "Louis, I'm sleeping. You're shaking." I sleep dramatically. The mattress dipped behind me, but he didn't touch me. "You can hold on to me if you want." I turned my head. Is this a cold photographer's version of a confession? A quiet laugh. Maybe. My pulse did something shameful. "Only because it's cold." "Of course." I moved into his arms, face tucked against his chest before I could overthink it. Warm, solid, dangerous. His hand settled carefully on my back. Right? Vincent murmured near my hair. Because it's cold. Exactly. And I think someone's heartbeat is racing a bear. I buried my face deeper. Shut up. His chest shook with silent laughter. For a while, neither of us said anything. The rain filled the room. His breathing slowed under my cheek. His hand stayed on my back, warm and careful, like he was still giving me room to move away if I wanted to. I didn't. Then Vincent's voice dropped quietly above me. Louis. Yes. I was serious about that confession. My eyes opened. If this had been daylight, he would have seen my face turn red enough to qualify as a medical event. I kept my forehead pressed to his chest. Very strategic. Very brave. What do you think? He asked. I swallowed. I think you're moving fast for someone who spent most of today pretending facial expressions were optional. His chest shifted with a quiet breath. Almost a laugh, but not quite. I mean it. That made my mouth stop working for a second. Which was rude. I needed my mouth. It was my best defense. I forced myself to tilt my head back just enough to look at him. The room was dim, but I could still make out the line of his jaw, the dark fall of his hair, the way his eyes stayed on mine like he wasn't afraid of the answer. What do you even like about me? I asked. We basically met today. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then, do you believe in love at first sight? I blinked, then narrowed my eyes. You mean I'm so beautiful you looked at me once and immediately fell in love? Vincent laughed. Actually laughed. Not the tiny, almost smile. Not the quiet breath through his nose. A real laugh, low and warm, vibrating under my hand. I lifted my head. What? That's not it. His laughter faded. The look that replaced it made my chest tighten. Vincent raised one hand and brushed a damp strand of hair away from my forehead. Slow, careful, like he was memorizing the movement instead of just doing it. No, he murmured. That's not all. My throat went dry. He looked at me for one long second, then spoke slower. Give me a chance. Let me get to know you. Terrible. That was much worse than flirting. Flirting I could survive. Barely. But honesty, in this economy, I pretended to think about it because I had a reputation to protect. Well, I said very seriously, since you helped me in the woods and provided emergency body heat tonight, I guess I can allow it. Vincent's mouth curved. It has nothing to do with you being unfairly attractive, I added. Of course. I'm serious. I believe you. You don't. Not even a little. I pinched his side through the blanket. He caught my hand before I could retreat, his fingers closing around mine, warm and steady. Then he pulled me closer until my cheek found his chest again and his arm settled around my waist. Sleep, he murmured. I made a small noise into his shirt. Yeah, sleep. Unless you still want to try. My entire body locked. Shut up, Vincent. His chest shook again. I buried my face deeper, because apparently that was where my dignity lived now. Evil, I muttered. You're evil. His hand moved once over my back, slow and gentle. Good night, Louis. I closed my eyes, smiling despite myself. Good night. Outside, the storm kept going. Inside, the bed was too small. Neither of us moved away. I woke up warm. That was the first problem. The second problem was that I was not warm because of the blanket. The blanket had been kicked halfway down my leg sometime during the night, useless and abandoned. I was warm because Vincent had one arm around my waist and my face was still tucked against his chest like I had paid rent there. For 3 whole seconds, I considered staying unconscious forever. Then Vincent's voice came above me, low and rough with sleep. Morning. I froze. He was awake. Of course he was awake. The universe had clearly chosen violence. I lifted my head slowly. His hair was messy, his eyes half-lidded, and his hand was still resting on my back like it belonged there. Terrible. Extremely terrible. Morning, I managed. His gaze moved over my face. Still cold. I narrowed my eyes. That depends on whether you're asking for medical reasons or flirting reasons. Vincent's mouth curved. Can't it be both? I looked away first, which felt like a personal failure. It's too early for you to be this annoying. It's almost 8. That's basically sunrise in freshman language, and I refuse to respect it. His hand shifted, thumb brushing once against my back through the shirt. Not enough to be a big moment. Just enough to ruin my ability to pretend I was normal. I cleared my throat and tried to roll away. Tried. Vincent didn't hold me back. That somehow made it worse because I was the one who didn't move. After breakfast, the camp had the exhausted energy of a place that had survived weather, panic, and poor planning. Jess and Marco found me near the bus with a paper cup of coffee and no emotional defense system. Jess looked from my borrowed hoodie to Vincent standing a few yards away with his camera. "Oh." I sipped my coffee. "No." Marco grinned. "Nobody said anything. Your face said an entire podcast." Jess leaned closer. So the woods were cold. The room was colder. And Vincent is less terrifying than advertised. Marco's eyes lit up. "That is not an answer. It is the only answer approved for public release." Vincent approached before they could interrogate me into federal testimony. His camera hung from his neck, and his jacket was over one arm. He handed me something. A photo. Freshly printed from one of those tiny portable printers the photography club had brought. It was me on the bus that morning. Hair still damp. Hoodie too big. Coffee in hand. Looking out the window like I had a secret I wasn't ready to share. I stared at it. Unlike the first photo, I knew this one had been taken. I had looked straight at him afterward. And maybe that was the difference. This time, being seen didn't feel like being caught. It felt like being chosen. Vincent watched my reaction quietly. I tapped the edge of the photo. "You're building quite the collection. Only the good ones." That sounded almost smooth. "I'll try less next time." "Don't." His eyes warmed. A dangerous development. By Wednesday, I had convinced myself I was going to the photography club meeting for normal reasons. Personal growth. Campus involvement. Free snacks, maybe. Not because Vincent had texted me at 4:57. Room 214. 5 o'clock. Come try. I stood outside the club room at 4:59, pretending I hadn't arrived early. Before I could knock, the door opened. Vincent stood inside, camera in hand. "Come to try." I lifted my chin. "The photography club?" His mouth curved. "For now." I stepped past him into the room, shoulder brushing his on purpose this time. Behind me, Vincent closed the door. The room smelled like coffee, old film, and printer ink. A few students looked up, curious, but Vincent didn't introduce me right away. He lifted his camera instead. This time, I didn't look away. I looked straight into the lens. Vincent's finger paused on the shutter. "What?" I tilted my chin. "Too expensive?" His smile was small. "Private." "No." Click. "Exactly right."